right. Hey, welcome back to Blue Collar. I don't know what I'm talking about. Welcome back to SureFire Live. Man, I picked the topic tonight of war stories because I feel like I'm in the middle of it. And I bet I have this feeling that you are too. I had just some crap happen today and just, arrows from everywhere. Of course, the more trucks, more people you have, the more, exposure you have to things. But it's the thing that makes you not want to build the business. It's the thing that makes you not want to have employees. It's the thing that makes you not want to build a bigger thing. And so, one of my favorite books, and I talk about a lot, is Failing Forward. And I'm rereading that book probably for the fifth time again, just to pick up a little nugget here and there. So we got a comment early on. We got Cody Whitwood, my man. It's chimney time, baby. Let's knock this one out of the park. Get it? Thanks, man. I always appreciate you being on here. So I want to talk war stories. I want to hear your war stories. Ideally, we tell war stories for two things. One, to understand that everybody goes through them. To understand that probably somebody else's war stories may be worse than yours, and two, give some light at the end of the other side that it's kind of just the badge of that it's the gauntlet that you have to run to get to the next level of business. Most really successful people have war stories you probably don't want to hear. They have war stories with extra zeros on the end that are just like, holy crap, man, I think my war story is bad till I hear yours. And so tonight, I'm going to talk about some of mine. I want you guys to talk about yours. And most importantly, what did you do about it? You had a thing that happened. What'd you do? Fire the person, change the policy, change this, do that, go to court. Like what do we do? Because again, I think misery loves company. And I think too, when I was really trying to grow the business from a one truck operator until I was really getting multiple trucks, everything was catastrophic, from meeting payroll to vendor issues to customer issues, especially to employee issues. Number one problem, number one thing. So we got outside the business box with us, Chad Murray. General Chad is here. He's got a lot of war stories too, Chad. If you want to step in here, I'm going to talk to Jake Loeffler for a little bit, but I can send you an invite here in a little bit. I'll bring you in about halfway through if you want to give some General Chad advice, and then of course it looks like Kyle German is here, and then Cody says Is it bad if I cause more war stories than I've had lately? Oh my God, that's so funny. All right, I'm going to bring on my buddy Jake. Jake, how are you, bud?
Hey, Mark. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, man. Today was, you and I were talking earlier, and just today was right at the end was super frustrating for me. Super dumb mistakes made that are so avoidable. And here's the other thing about, like, you can't train people. I can't train for some of the stupid stuff that happens. Like, I can't tell you not to do super stupid things. And sometimes that's what's happening. And today, right as I got here, we sent a technician out. He had to jump in another technician's truck because he was out, and we got to get our customer service. And he's a new technician, certified. He's been with me actually for a few years, but we're running him out in a truck. He gets out and he soots a house. And come to find out, there was no filter engaged in the vac, and the filter had been removed for cleaning and not put back on by somebody else. And he never checked it. And here we have a soot claim. And then right after that, we had installed the stove, and then the customer was doing something with it and it rocked. And we had a picture, and my technician who installed the stove didn't see the leveling feet in the box. And I think we threw the leveling feet away, and it was sitting there. It looked okay until you pushed on the back right corner of it. And now If you think supply chain's hard to get a stove, how about trying to get leveling feet for that stove?
Fastenal might have something.
Oh, we're going to do something for sure, but it's just ah.
Mark, it seems like every time you get a new employee is that there's always that handful of things that everybody has to do. Like no matter how many times you tell them, like a mistake, like
Yeah,
I used to run a epoxy flooring company, would never fail. They would mix the two, A and B components, they'd mix them wrong, right? Or,
right.
I mean, it just, whatever it is, dusting out a house. I don't know. I mean, you could probably think of a dozen things that has happened to you numerous times throughout your career, you know?
One emergency we had one time, we had two eye emergencies, and maybe somebody can learn from this. One time, you remember we used to use Creaway in a puff bottle. You remember that Creaway, and you puff it up into the chimney. It was before PCR and a lot better stuff now. You puff it up in there. Well, I had a technician one time wanted to see what that smelled like. And, and he squeezed it. And well, that is a high pH acid
Right.
right in the eyes, right in a customer's house, right on their hearth. He's flipping over,
Mm,
laying. And luckily, my one technician was a pre-med kid. And he jumped on it. He got milk, and he asked the lady for some milk to neutralize the acid, and poured it. But had a guy out for a long time, for a week, burned his eyeballs.
hmm
But here's the
tell
second.
tell everybody, not right now or whenever you want, but tell them about the explosion from the smoke chamber sprayer.
I will. That's in my repertoire of nightmares, because that's one of those deals where I got one worse than you. But so here's one that you can learn from. Here's a war story you can learn from. One day we were mixing chamber tech in a bucket to get ready to put it in part of the smoke chamber, and it went up into my guy's eyes real bad, and he had to go to the emergency room. The emergency room doctor would not work on him, give him any eyes till he had the MSDS sheet. He had to
Mm,
have the material safety data sheet before he did anything to this guy's eyes. Well, I didn't have it on the truck at the time, and it caused a real delay. And I had to call. I can't remember who I called, but I got the MSDS sheet sent over to the hospital for him to be able to help him, because he didn't want to do anything wrong that made something
mm,
worse on his
yeah.
eyes. So the lesson is very easily collect your MSDS sheets, put them on a Dropbox, and have them on everybody's phone. Everybody has access to the Dropbox and access to those
Yeah.
MSDS sheets along with your office and everybody. In case something happens, you've got a list of MSDS sheets that can be sent out. Now,
Yeah.
we used to print them out and put them in the truck in a folder, but they'd always get lost and beat up. So Dropbox on everybody's phone, your MSDS sheets for all your Saver Systems products, all your chemicals, all your coatings, anything you have that you have on that truck needs an MSDS sheet, and they can also get in trouble being pulled over for it. So make sure you've got access to all the sheets. It's a one hour project for somebody in the office to put them all together, make phone calls, print them off, get them up on Dropbox.
Yep. Great idea.
So that's my first story. Give me a war story. You just had one before we got on here about your Mason. I don't know if you want to say that, but
I mean, worst war stories are when it always seems to happen on busy season. People get stressed out, they make mistakes, and I remember just getting going, a couple of years in, and everybody quits. So you're left in the middle of busy season alone. I'm sure that's happened to most people who've been in business for a while, and I'll just never forget, just looking at the ceiling going, okay, what do I got to do to get through this one? And
yeah.
you just keep going and get
Well,
more people and just keep going.
so I've had to fire everyone, but I've never had everybody quit. I've had a couple
I
people
only
quit.
had 2 employees though.
Him and his buddy quit, and you're out of a workforce.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know a person, a lot of people know in this industry, that he was actually speaking at a convention, and his employees walked up to him at right before he went on stage to speak, and they asked him to hold out his hands, and his employees were all around him. They all handed him their keys and credit cards and everything else
Oh,
in his hands, and they all quit at once. And he had to walk up and talk on stage about business or sales or whatever. And his entire company quit on him at one time. Um,
mm,
so I wanted to show you something. Now, this is graphic, okay? I'm just going to go for it tonight. I'm hopped up on caffeine, and so I'm just going for it. I'm going to show you something that's graphic. If you have a weak stomach, don't look at this. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm going to tell you the setup. And some of you have seen this picture. I put it on Facebook before, and it always gets the warning sign. But here's what I'm going to tell you: the opening, what happened, and then I'm going to show you the result of what came from it. So we were installing a liner in a chimney, and I think it was a 6-inch to an appliance, to a wood stove. It was rolled up, and it has duct tape on the end. So you know why there's duct tape on the end? Yeah, so you don't cut
you don't
yourself,
cut
right?
yourself.
That's as sharp as hell. Well, it was starting to sprinkle a little bit outside, and this employee decided to take off the duct tape, and I don't know why he did, but he decided to take it off. And he was unrolling the coil, and the coil was wet, and it slipped in his hand and recoiled back and hit him across the artery, across the arm. All right, all right, guys, here comes the picture. If you don't want to see it, don't. But here's what happened. I don't know if you got that.
It looks fake.
It's not fake at all. His artery is under there, and it hit him twice. You can see on the lower part where it got him again, and how clean that is. Here is another view of that in that. And then here is the final result of his arm being stitched up. He no longer works for me. The guy made a lot of stupid mistakes. He didn't get fired for this, of course, but that right there could be a life changer. It almost hit his artery. And hey, Chad, I'll send you an invite in just a second. It almost hit his artery, and he could have bled out right there on the job site. And so again, it turned into a situation the other day when we were talking about as a group. One of my guys showed he cut his leg. Oh, it was one of my metal shop guys cut his leg on a piece of metal. He sent it out to the group, and the group, started sending their own little war story hand cuts and stuff. And one of my guys said, "Man, that's getting a little gross, guys. Let's not do that." And I said, I think we should do it. I think it's one thing to talk safety.
Yeah.
It's another thing to live it and see it, what it really happens when you don't pay attention to it. And Jim Brewer, he's probably watching, but Jim is a great example of a really bad situation happening, and then what he learned from it. And a lot of people know the story, but how he took that thing and really changed our industry with a bad situation.
Right. My Brad, which you've spoken to Brad, he was on here a couple of weeks ago. He's my example that we use in brickliners. Is he fell off a roof? Must have been 10 years ago. No. Anyway, 7-8 years ago now. And he could have been dead, but he fractured his neck and his back and his ribs, and he's still not the same. And I always have him tell that story when we're talking about ladder safety every year. Just a good reminder you can't forget about it. It's the real deal. It could happen anytime.
It is, and we talk safety a handful of times on this show, and it's never the guy. You never know when it's coming, and so you have to set up for safety. Every single time, because there's not a single guy out there goes, you know what, I'm going to be safe right now because something bad's going to happen if I don't. Like it doesn't work that way. I talk about one of my guys getting his back broken from a situation like that, but I think I talked about that last week or the week before, so I don't want to go back over it. Um, I want to talk about employee issues this time of year because everybody. By the way, Chad, if you're listening, I send it to your chat at Master Services email. So right now, this is the time of year that employees you have the most exposure because you're in the most houses and you're working probably at capacity. And this is where a lot of companies are making the most money ever, and they're also losing a lot because of mistakes. And I say it a lot that this is fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, so I can't really change my team and I can't really go into new play calling or anything. But we make a lot of notes and we make a lot of plans for the spring when we're going to do a lot of training and fix the team to next year. What do you guys do?
There's definitely a list of things that we want to do, that we know we need to do, and come January, that's when we get slow. January, February, March, and we just try to knock them out. It's a good time to analyze the team and make sure you got the players you want to play and get rid of the ones you don't. Try to find new guys.
So I know I talked to your guy a couple of weeks ago about morning meetings, and in my morning meeting, we do it twice a week right now. We do it Mondays and Fridays, and in our morning meeting, we talk about mistakes, we talk about errors, and we discuss it as a quick group. Not necessarily that we can fix it, but we bring up the problem and address it. When we talk about safety, slips, trips, falls, cuts, and then also we talk about mistakes made. You guys do something similar to that, right?
Yeah, I think we're not as good at really identifying. Like every morning, we're not doing that, but we certainly make notes every week, and we have a staff meeting every other week. And we'll bring up all the important ones that come up throughout that last time frame for sure.
Yeah. Hey, it looks like Chad's joining us, so bring Chad on. What's up, Mr. Chad?
Hey guys.
Hey Chad.
How are you?
I'm ready for war stories.
General Chad. So you probably heard what we were saying just now about, like, for us, we've got an easel that's out in front of kind of where we meet. And when we have the meeting, we write down what the problem was. Sometimes we show it on a screen, and we have Apple TV and stuff, and we show it on the screen, and we address what happened. 2 weeks ago, we installed a furnace liner wrong, and I showed what we did improperly about it. The technician, everybody thought they did it right, but we didn't. And so we show the problems and then how we're going to fix it. What do you guys do to address problems?
We have a quality control. Every quality control goes on our weekly nut. We call it the nut report, short for squirrel nut. And that goes in every Monday and Tuesday morning meeting of what we did on that quality control.
So how does it manifest itself? Does everybody report what happened, or how do you get the stuff onto the report?
Two ways. Number one is obviously the customer called and complained. Number two is we have my assistant general manager, Brian, is going through every estimate, and every estimate, whether it's sold or won, and every job.
Right.
And then we see it. And, a matter of fact, I actually just got on him last week because I noticed, I mean, you want to talk about a war story. I was going through to checking on him because, management's got to check on management. I got to a cap estimate that we sold an $8,000 job but they didn't sell him a cap. And there was no roof pictures. So the estimator didn't even get on the roof, made an $8,000 sale, but didn't even address why the hell we were even there.
Right.
And so that definitely hit my, war story with my company really quick on, okay, the identification is not being done properly. And so this is what's going to happen if you don't do it. No more bonus for this month. So start getting it right. So anyway, yeah.
So Chad, give us your best war story. Give me a general Chad story.
Tore down a chimney on the wrong block last year.
You did what?
Tore down a chimney on the wrong block last year. All the way to the ground.
All the way to the ground?
And the people were home.
Oh my God.
Took it all the way to the ground. Looking in their house.
Wow.
And they just watched you do it?
And they came out. So Juan goes into the firebox. He's pulling the firebox, pokes his head in, and the lady then decides to comes outside and goes, "What are you guys doing?"
Oh my God.
He's like, well, we're here to do the chimney rebuild. And she's like, no, you're not. He goes, well, yeah, I am. Sure enough, wrong street. Well, actually, it was the right street, but it was like, I don't remember. It was like 721. It was like 4 blocks down. It was 221 was where we were supposed to be.
Right.
So he just
Oh
read
my
it
God.
on the door, and then they literally did it for 4 hours, taking it down. And they were home.
That is unbelievable.
So how did you just pay to have it what'd you do?
We fortunately were able to get them to pay the cost.
Really?
And we did.
Oh my God.
We did, because they were home.
I wouldn't have paid anything.
They paid the cost, which was, I don't even remember. It cost me like $5,000 total. And so, yeah, we did that.
I had something similar. We tore that. So that we went to estimate a job for a real estate transaction. Homeowner wasn't there or was going to be moving in, so we never did meet him, but they approved rebuild the chimney, roof down, kind of a deal, tear down, redo it. We had the brick delivered from a brick company, and they delivered it to the house next door that morning. We got there, and my guys saw the brick. Both houses had messed up chimneys. The brick matched the chimney, and they didn't check the address on the work order to make sure it was the right house. And nobody was home. We tore the whole chimney down, and then the customer got there and goes, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "Rebuilding your chimney." He's like, "I didn't sign up for this." So we literally had to rebuild that chimney and had to rebuild the other chimney. We usually stuff like something down in the chimney, like a foam, and we'll tear it so stuff didn't go down, and total disaster. And we thought so. Anyway, I know that feeling.
That's never happened to me. Thank gosh.
It hasn't. Oh, I've relined the wrong chimney before too. We customer, good friend of mine, said, "Hey, we want to reline the one in the den." Well, it's an old Civil War house. Den and library were like just right next to each other, had the exact same problem, exact same thing. When you say the right side of the on the right side, is it when you're facing the house, or is it when you're in the house facing out the door? I relined the wrong one, and I got the liner stuck, and I couldn't get it all the way in. And I called him and said, "Man, the liner's stuck." He goes, "No problem. I'll be home in a little bit." He comes home and he's like, "You're relining the completely wrong chimney." So
that's where we learned to put the northeast, west, and south chimneys on there, because I did the same thing once. Not with a liner though. Just started working on the wrong chimney. And luckily that guy came out when I was halfway done with the demo and was like, "That's not the right one."
Yeah.
We've done that. I can say that.
You have relined the wrong chimney?
Yeah.
Well, just not knowing there's 2 chimneys on the house, like which one,
Right.
Yeah. All right, we got Dion giving us a war story. When I was a laborer, me and a truck manager fought to get a liner that was stuck down into the furnace flue, and then finally, after an hour, we realized it was stuck in the firebox for the fireplace. Right, it went down the wrong side. Yeah, that can absolutely happen. All right, I'm going to give a dusting war story. We're in this again. Homeowner was there, left. We go in and I've got the fireplace blocked off. We got the vacuums going for the dust control, and I was breaking it out from the top. It was like an 8x8 flue tile, kind of small. And so we were breaking it out, and all of a sudden we were breaking it out. Nope, not home stories. And so we broke it out, and but all of a sudden it collapsed inside there. It was like a huge collapse down inside there, and all the stuff fell out and knocked my dust control off the front. I think I had a piece of wood sitting up there and taped, but it knocked it down, and the dust all just came in the house. It was coal soot. So and my helper comes running out of the house because I'm on the roof. He comes running out and he's like, stop. I go in, and it's literally everywhere, coal soot. So I'm starting to clean it up, and I'm like, oh man, this is not good at all. And he said, and I called the lady. I said, hey, we've had an accident. Can you come home, and we need to figure out what to do? She comes home. She got little kids. She got a kid on her hip, and she got two little kids. And we had kind of cleaned the front room a little bit. And the kids, and she's like, well, I really don't see too much of a problem. I said, trust me, it's here. And the kids are running around. Every time I see them make a lap, they're getting darker and darker. I swear, the next thing you know, the baby's got like a black mark on it, and their bottoms of their feet and their hands are solid black. And she looked at me like dead saw. She goes, oh no. I said, it's bad. I think it's throughout your whole house. Sure enough, it was. We called a restoration company. They came in for $20,000 claim. Had to clean her HVAC, all her stuff, move her out, clean her. She became a huge customer of ours after that because I, really tried to do it right. But when those kids started running around and they were getting more and more black, and they just looked like just coal soot all over them, it was just the saddest look. So that's my worst. Give me a dusting story.
I don't have a dusting story, but I've got a funny gas log install story once that really is kind of more like I was the victim. I'm the one that got murdered in this thing. So it was like a 30 to 36 inch propane gas log set on a huge just mansion. It was their big focal point of the whole house, right? And they wanted to put these gas logs in, and I don't know if this was my first 5 years or whatever it was. I'm putting them in. I cannot get the pilot lit for nothing. I'm just pilot light. Well, every time I'm doing it, I don't know how I hooked it up wrong. Propane is just filling up all around me.
Oh no!
It is just, completely. And finally, that spark did something, and I literally was sitting there and watched like hell go through me, and right through my whole body. I literally watched the flame just go right through me. No more eyebrows. My beard was all singed. I'm sitting there, just I didn't even move. Like, what the heck? What do I do? And I'm looking around. Did anyone see that? And no one did. And I'm like, oh, cool. So let me fix out where the leak is and everything. And I'm out of here, right? They never knew about it.
Oh my God!
It was one of those. I'll never forget it. It's one of the things I teach with gas logs. Like, make sure every connection is perfect before you go to light it. And so,
well, what about you, Jake? Where are you? Are we worse than you?
They're all about the same. If you got to hire the restoration company to come in and launder every piece of clothing and clean every surface and wall and the window, yes, we've done that numerous times, and that's one of the ones I'm talking about. Like, you have a vacuum that's puffing, or you start it, or you're knocking out a flue tile, you got a downdraft. You got red brick dust all over the entire house.
Yeah.
Or you're repointing a basement. Done it before. Vacuums are like they're the hardest ones to take though, because Those suckers should be protecting the home against that, and they cost a crap load of money. And when they dust out a house because they're not working right, it's like, it just hurts, you know?
Oh, I know.
Do you guys still advertise no mess guaranteed?
It's so funny. Today when we dusted that house, yeah, we have absolutely no mess. You know, and that I feel like we should put most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. 99% of the time.
There's a good chance, absolutely no mess. There's a couple stories coming up, so I want to read those. This one time, this lady got brand new white carpet, which is the kiss of death for chimney sweeps anyway, and she wanted her prefabricated firebox painted black, you know, and I had a vacuum there. Now I know I should have had some kind of a top fan or something, but I had a vacuum there to, you know, if I was spraying it and you know, making it look nice for her. She's like, make sure you don't get anything on my carpet. I'm like, no problem. No problem. I laid out the tarp, had the vacuum, and I'm in there spraying and
I'm a professional.
What's that?
I'm a professional.
Yeah, I'm a professional. Don't worry, you're in good hands.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed when I was spraying it that my arms were feeling a little bit sticky. I'm like, this is kind of weird. So I get done, and she's like, oh, looks good. And I pull my tarp up, and there's a big shadow around the whole tarp. She had brand new furniture and brand new carpeting, and it was just a light film around the whole room. And of course I had to clean everything.
Yeah.
Let me say some war stories here. Okay. Was training to sweep, mentioned, oh, it's this house. Let ourselves in. Swept the chimney. The customer's stovepipe crumbled. Wrote a proposal to replace the stovepipe, emailed it, and went about the day. Office got a call about a missed appointment. Then another call about a random estimate and the sweep that they didn't schedule. Check that address. Yeah. Oh, this is going to be a good one. Ordered a crane to pull a giant concrete slab off the top. Right. Done that before. The crane punches through the driveway.
Yeah.
Already ordered full coverage cap, so I figured I'd use sledgehammers to knock it off. While knocking it off, part of the slab went through the HVAC system. Yeah. I feel your pain. I've got one big story that I'm holding. Dion, I dusted out a whole house with a vacuum problem. Even with the zip wall set up, the whole house got dusted while we were tile knocking from the top.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I know that feeling. That's a sickening feeling when you think you've done everything to prevent it, and here you have a damn insurance claim. You gonna say something, Jake?
Here's something that if you ever dust a house out with oil, like an oil furnace, don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Like, just call the company, the cleaning company, to come in. It's impossible to clean. You're just going to spread it.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes. That's
Just
a
leave.
good one. So Jason Fox says sometimes you need to quit while you're behind. I love that.
I'm going to remember that one.
That's a great quote. Here's another one. One of our guys is breaking out old flue tiles and ended up breaking through a customer's master bedroom wall. Okay. I've had that. I've had something like that happen. Have you guys reline issues, reline nightmares?
Yeah.
I'll tell you once it was on a guy I was working with was doing those poured liner systems. And I know who it was. John Meredith was telling me about this. When he was doing a poured liner system, they were filling the chimney up. You know how those poured liners work. You put a bladder in there and you fill it up with the material. And they were putting it in. And I think, and so then they're like, man, why is this thing requiring so much material? And they couldn't figure it out. They opened the garage door and they'd filled the garage floor up about that much. It was coming out the front door and hardening. And he had a date that night and had to leave. He wasn't the owner. He was working for the guy. Left the guy to clean up the problem himself. But yeah, those poured liners. I know some chimneys that fell off houses with those poured liners because the weight was too much.
Really?
But so I do have another smoke tight story that is kind of famous. But anyway, I'm going to save that for a minute. What do you guys, when you guys have a big mistake, how often do you fire the guy? How often do you turn into a training opportunity? Like, what do you do with mistakes?
I think you've got to expect a certain amount of mistakes, especially when you're sending a new guy out. Nobody's ever really truly ready to go out. Like, when you just got to let them go and be like, do your best, call me if there's problems, know what you don't know, and we'll find the answer. But so there's a lot of mistakes that I'm just like, all right, hey, don't do that again, right? You learned a good lesson, good. So let's move on and we'll get better. But if it's a integrity thing, if they've done something that's shady, or not really a mistake per se, it was a preventable mistake, then yeah, they got to go. Integrity
What about you,
issues.
Chad? How do you make it a fireable offense versus a learning exercise?
I don't even recall ever firing anybody for a mistake at work. I mean, an actual mistake. I mean, but the second part of what Jake said, immediately, if it's an integrity thing, we just don't play that game.
Yeah.
We don't write you up. You're gone. So
Yeah.
Everybody's got a choice. Like, here's the right way, here's the okay way, and here's and it's a choice. So you got to hold them accountable in some way.
Yeah, so it looks like I hate when it does this. I can't tell who said this, but it says negligence would be something that could be fireable. Like, I think intentional negligence. Like there's people that don't know. There's true ignorance, and then there's stupidity, or there's negligence where you knew and you tried to make some judgment call to get yourself out of work or to make more money on a job. So Dion's got a story here. Dion says, I just finished dumping 97 bags of Thermix on a 7-day job that was originally a 2-day reline. Oh, those are my favorites. We ended up having to set up scaffold to breach a hole to completely remove all the backfill brick around the flue tiles. Total pain in the ass. To unclog this oversized chimney and break out both fireplace flues instead of just one to do a total reline. Fortunately, was able to upsell, hired a junk removal company to haul away 4 boxes of demo bags filled with bricks. Those are the worst, man. You can't see that coming, and you're into it. How do you guys that's a great point Dion brings up, that, how do you handle the problem that you had no way to know? There was some kind of faulty building, some kind of a faulty issue. Do you then upsell to the customer? Or do you say, hey, this was unseen, here's how much money? Or do you just eat it? Like, what do you guys do?
It depends on if it's a cheap eatable thing, we eat it. But I mean, quite frankly, if it's unseen, unforeseeable, I mean, we go right into them and just say, hey, you watched enough of the channels that fix
this old house.
Yeah, this old house. I mean, this just happened to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what do you say, Jake?
If we can upsell them and try to, explain the problem, then we'll try for sure. But like Chad said, if it's, going to take an extra hour or two, it's not something we're going to worry about.
Yeah. So Dion says he has a lot of clauses in his contract to allow the upsell when it's not eatable. Yeah. And that is a good point. He says he factors in expenses, the cost of his attorney fees to have solid documentation. Funny, I had another meeting with my attorney today about getting some more of my stuff kind of buttoned up. But and that's a good point. If you're listening, another great learning process, and I'm sure Dion would say this, the truth is the same thing, is that if you have a hard lesson like this, you're like, man, I needed this in a contract, or I need to make sure I'm covered here after the mistake. You need to talk to an attorney. A good attorney will save you more than they ever cost you. And you need your stuff documented. We have more exposure than ever. Our jobs are getting bigger than ever. Our exposure, and people are, I don't know, I feel like people are freaking crazy right now. They're mean and crazy. And man, they want to come after you. They will come after you. So to Dion's point, having yourself covered. If you're listening to this show and you own a business and you haven't talked to an attorney in a couple of years, I'm not going to say that's ignorant. There's my friend Larry Wingate says there's a difference between ignorant and stupid. Ignorance when you had no idea and something happened to you and you learned from it. Stupid is when you knew, but you didn't do anything about it, and then something happened to you. So don't be stupid. What do you say, Chad, about attorneys?
I'm lawyered up. Anytime something big happens, I mean, we have a funny thing that on our emails is all of our, and this is maybe stupid, but in our email and estimate and jobs has all the disclaimers. All of
on
them.
Your emails.
Yeah. And it is long.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually had a bad review this summer about them. Like, why would I use this company? They get all this. And we just said it because, we were lawyered up. I don't remember exactly how we defended the bad review, but it was just like, hey, sorry, we're in business in 2021.
Exactly.
That's what it takes.
Yeah. And Dion, thanks for adding to the show tonight. He says a couple grand a year in legal fees isn't much to add your operating expenses. Raise your prices a bit, cover your ass is my motto. It's a good motto. And then he also says he has a CRM, automated emails. That's the way to do it. Yeah, exactly. Those are good. And I need to be better about that myself. And we're going to be. There's just too much exposure out there. We're talking war stories, and a lot of these kids, you don't want to lead to somebody getting hurt or dead or some kind of major problem. But the truth is, we're in that kind of business that things can happen.
How long is your contract?
Yeah.
Say that again, Jay.
How long are your contracts? Are they pages or just like
we're working on what they call one pager. And, I had Kristen Shields on here. If anybody needs a good attorney, I was talking to her today, and she was on SureFire Live, and she's a construction attorney, very good, very sharp. And she is also getting partners around the country that just focus on construction law. So they're called Counterpoint Law in Nashville, but they can service probably about 15 states at this point. What were you going to say, Chad?
I kind of have an attorney, luckily never turned into an attorney. Tragic but funny story that happened to me once. So this was back in the day when it was probably me and one truck. So this is probably early aughts, late 90s. And this was the day we used to call ourselves kind of like Jerry Seinfeld. He had an episode where he was always even Steven. If something bad happened to him, something good within an hour would happen to do that. Well, we were kind of the same way in business. We'd lose something and something would come up. But so we were really strapped for cash. And I went down to the University Park, which is North Dallas, rich neighborhood. And I walk into this inspection, and it ends up being like a $12,000, $15,000 job, which is back then paid my monthly bills.
That's a big job.
It was the job, right?
Right.
And it wasn't that hard. And it was great. And this lady was just she had a plumber and an AC guy. She had every contractor there at the same time. So, I'm all over the house, in the back, in the front, whatever I'm doing. And I leave with signed contracts starting tomorrow. That's how busy I was. Start tomorrow. And so I get home. Me and my wife are all like, yay, the bills are paid, right? Da, da, da. She gets a phone call and she goes, yeah, he's here. Oh, okay, hold on. She goes, it's her. And I'm like, okay. Yes, ma'am? She goes, yes, you are not allowed to come back to my house tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. She goes, you left the back gate open, and my precious 2 show dogs went running down the street, and one got squished, and the other one I'm in the ER right now with.
Oh, my gosh.
One's dead, and one's not. And I'm like, ma'am, the plumber was coming in and out. I did not leave your gate open. She goes, everybody there said you did. You know, it's like everybody was still there blamed it on me, which they were still going in and out. She didn't on me. And like, we're like, oh, and she's like, I'm getting my attorney. I'm like, okay. You know, I don't have a pot to piss in. Sue me all you want, right? You know, never heard from her again. An hour later, a $15,000 called us another job, called and approved, and I started that job the next day. So we're like, Seinfeld, we got a bad job and a good job, you know. And so it was so good. It's so funny. But yeah, that little dog, they're like little precious. They're like that big.
Oh
dogs.
no!
Run down, squish. He goes, the one squish.
Oh man. Man. So a couple things, Dave. Yes, I can send you Kristen Shields' email. And Facebook user says, unfortunately, crazy homeowners have made it to where we need these extensive contracts. Yeah, we're very litigious. And if people, you know, the bigger you get, the more trucks, the more your name's out there, you know, the more you're going to have coverage. And I remember Jim, I think was talking, he's like, man, sometimes I think we shouldn't even have insurance, because if they've got something to sue against, then they're going to sue for the maximum amount. And if you don't have anything, what are they going to get? But I was also talking to another insurance guy one time and says, if they sue and win, even if you don't have insurance coverage, they can sue for future revenue and future income. So they can tie you up if you don't have insurance for it. If there's a judgment against you and you don't have coverage, you can still be on the hook for it. It doesn't matter if you got insurance or not. So insurance is a must. Dion says, holy shit, it gives me anxiety just imagine it. So I'm going to tell a war story. Dryer vent war story. And some of you guys have heard this one. I'm telling it again. So my guys we're going to clean a dryer vent, and come to find out the dryer had been pumping under the house for about 20 years, never pumping outside in, you know, getting out of the house. Had been filling up the crawl space with dryer vent lint. So we get in there. We realize it's not, so we have to come back and we're going to reroute it and then make a hole through the brick and go out. But we're under there, and literally there's dryer vent lint all over the dirt floor, all over the HVAC ducts, all over the wires hanging under there. Every cobweb, everything is full of dryer vent lint, which is nasty. My guys have suits on, but as they're under there working, it is all just everywhere. They got respirators on. It's terrible though. So they're coming across, they're piping it, and they've knocked the hole on the outside, and they're getting ready to connect the termination cap to get out and finish up. And my guy's flashlight, I think he had a headlight, it goes out and it won't, and he can't see. So he decides he smokes cigarettes. He decides to pull his lighter out and lights to see. Well, dryer vent lint, as most people know, is extremely flammable, almost just instantly combustible. So all of the air catches fire and ripples like this all the way through the whole underneath side of the house. Every wire's on fire, every cobweb, the top of the HVAC duct, everything is on fire. Well, the air is instantly on fire, and then it goes out. But he starts to get singed, like you said, on your propane situation. So all of a sudden, he's got about 100 fires under the house, and he's running under there, patting it out with his arms and smashing it out like this, and kind of burns himself up. But he gets all of them out, and then he goes to and he gets it all out, takes a breather, goes outside, smokes a cigarette, comes back inside to present the bill to the customer, and the lady's like, you know, thank you very much. She's like, do you smell something burning? And he was burning. I mean, he had no eye, he had no skin. He was on fire. But luckily. But how do you tell somebody? How do you learn? I mean, I tell that story to hopefully learn from it about how flammable it is. But how do you tell a guy, yeah, when you're under there and your light goes out, don't light that. You know what I mean? Like I can't think of all these things to tell him not to do. We got a couple more. So this says, hello, gentlemen. We're also very much covered in our terms and conditions. Downfall. It sometimes keeps us on the phone explaining parts of the terms in which we do not even affect which do not even affect smaller projects. Most people do not understand terms. We have since broken down terms based on the type of project. That's a good point. Instead of having every single term for every potential possibility, you kind of have terms written out for, for specific things, say chimney sweeping, what the liability is, what isn't, restoration, inspections. On that, and I'm not an insurance expert, but I do know that you need to make sure on your insurance policy you got E&O coverage, which is errors and omissions. In your coverage for, and some people don't. Some people have cheap insurance and there's no EO in there. Your number one liability out there is your inspection and what you find, what you're supposed to, what you were negligent and missing or whatever. So you do need errors and omissions insurance coverage. Dion says, I'm adding a pet clause to my contracts and CRM emails. Oh, I'm not responsible for dogs getting squished.
Yeah.
And then he also says, when you set up an appointment and get added to our CRM, you automatically, yeah. So what else, guys? What other war stories you got?
This is making me want to call Christian right now.
You know what? I'm going to put her email on just to. Do you have it? Oh, here it is right here. I'm going to add it to the thing right now. Oh, that's Adobe sign. Hold on.
I have her number right here.
You have her email address?
Send me a bill.
Yeah, I did. I sent you a copy. Put her email address in on the chat so people can see it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jake, so
Yes.
I made some notes on failing forward, and I know we got about 10 minutes left. Here were some of the top reasons people fail, according to John Maxwell, according to his book. And that book was written like 20 years ago. But I think there's some things in here, because here's the other thing. Too much failure can cause people to not want to move forward. But also, we've built businesses on top of the failure. We failed, we learned, we adjusted, and we grew from it. Like, to me, failure and all these war stories, to me, I don't want them, but it's also what makes us able to go to the next step. How do you guys feel about it?
Well, unfortunately, it's part of just, you're right. You can't, there's no way to account for something you haven't felt yet. You know what I mean? Like if you don't make the mistake, you're not really looking out for it. And eventually it's going to happen. And it's just gives you that extra level of expertise. It kind of gives you you're wiser for it.
It emboldens you a little bit. Like today, one of my office staff said, "Man, I wouldn't want to be you today," or something like that. Like, wow, this really sucked. And I said, "Gosh, this isn't even on my top 1,000 worst days." And
Right.
here it is. You put it in the.
No, there's a new one. I typed the wrong one. There it is. Right.
Yeah, put it in the comment section.
I can't. I don't know how to do it.
Oh, you can't?
I don't have a way that I can type in the comments.
Oh, that's weird. I'm going to copy it.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. I got the wrong one. So to me, like today, I remember looking back at things and going, man, it was like the worst day on earth. And now those days, like, it's no big deal. Here's her email. So to me, that when people tell me their problems, I'm like, oh, it only gets worse. But
Right.
You have some really high highs and some really low lows, right? I mean, but if you don't look for the highs, like we were talking about today, like we do so many things, right? When I look at our schedule and see how many trucks are out there and how many customers are taken care of, how many interactions are happening, and I get, we get one problem a week out of, we do 300 services, a week plus. That's pretty good. I'll take it. You know what I mean? But when all you get as the owner is the bad one, you start to get bare. If you don't really look at the positive, because you have to actively look for the positive, it feels like it weighs a ton. And it does sometimes, right? This business weighs a lot, right, Chad? I mean, you've gone through some crap.
I've got a crappy story for you right now.
Do it.
And so 6 years ago, when I always had a good culture with the crew, but my educators, I never really did enough culture with them and enough. Thought I did, but and training. So anyway, at the time, we had an employment lawsuit for overtime. I was being this was you know about the one up. I got the one up for everybody here. So I have an employment lawsuit going on for overtime. I have my I'm being tax sued by the government for my some sales tax I didn't pay on accident or something, or my guy didn't pay, and I find out my 3 educators in Dallas and my social media girl have all started up their own business, and I found out it by going into the shop one day and went to get something on the girl's desk. I knocked her mouse, and there was her email with the new logo that she was sending to these 3 guys.
Oh
I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the, what? And so now, so now I start going to their trucks and looking at their GPSs, and the route was supposed to be, pretty, right? And the route's got little spikes going somewhere else. So they're doing side job or their own jobs on the side while they're doing mine, because I know what they should be doing. And now, so I decide I'm going to start going to some of these houses 2 weeks later to see if they're doing jobs. I start then checking my inventory, make sure they're not stealing stuff, which they weren't, but they're doing all this. Well, because of the employment lawsuit, I had to trick these guys into quitting. I did not want to fire 4 people at the same time, even if they were starting their own business. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do to trick these guys to quit? They all were arrogant pop assholes, to tell you the truth. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make these guys feel like they got to clock in and out, and then they have to bring their trucks to the shop every night, which is a total no way we're going to do that. We'll quit. Well, sure enough, in the morning of John's morning meeting, which, by the way, I didn't tell my general manager I was about to do this, so he was blindsided 2 a.m. And so I got ready at 7 a.m, and the meeting started at 6:30. So I was sitting in this desk waiting for the call to John to tell me. I told him what to tell them, what they had to do. And I was waiting for about maybe 7:35. I'll get the call. Oh, no, 7:32. I'm getting a call from John. They're all quitting. Oh, they are? Well, put them on the phone. So I put me on speaker or whatever. So I put them on speaker. I go, hey guys. So it's not the law, you're right, but it's my policy that you're going to start clocking in and out and telling me your hours. And I want my trucks back because I can see you guys are using them privately. And they're like, well, we're just going to quit. I said, good. I'll be up there in 15 minutes to take your resignations. So I got it. I was already ready. Got in my truck. As soon as I pull in, they were on me like white on rice. They didn't want to quit. Well, I'm sorry. I left one thing out. I told John on the speaker, have them all write out their resignations. So I got there. They're on me like, we don't want to quit, but we don't want to do this. I look over at John. He's out there too. They signed their resignation letters. They said yes. I looked at them all. I go, and I can't remember the name of their business. I said I coded the name of their business into saying goodbye, and I never told them I knew, but I coded. God, I can't remember what it was. I just kind of phrased it in and said, okay, goodbye, get out of here now. You don't work for me, or go work for whatever. And they all kind of looked at each other, and they walked off and left. Started their business, and 2 months later, they're out of business.
Yeah.
So
I was driving down the interstate one day and I saw a chimney lantern on top of a van. And I'm like, I know everybody in the chimney business. Wonder who this is. It was my employee on his day off with the helper. They had to be off for his wife's birthday to do a side job. And I looked over and I sped up and he looked at me and he saw me. And then he sat back like I couldn't see him back, behind the door. And then his helper looked over real quick and looked back. And I called him. I said, you are so freaking fired. I didn't use freaking. Real quickly for some reason on my personal Facebook page where some people are commenting, I don't see them on this feed. So I'm going to throw a couple things out there. Vince DeCreasy said we're going through it now. I'm not sure what part of that it was. Chris Adair was with me when we sooted that house and all the kids turned coal colored. Also, yeah, they're asking me to recount my other story. I will. So also Kristen Shields is watching. So Christian, we have mentioned you on this, and you may be hearing. I'm going to have Christian back on the show after the first year to kind of talk about getting your house in order for the new year and getting yourself tied up. So
Let me get one more, a little short one in before you tell your,
okay, go ahead.
Sure is the country singer story, and so which I love. But this one was another employee that had started his own business, who we threw a big party for leave. Said he was going to go work at Sears to sell siding, going to do this, grand thing. And 2 weeks later, after we sent him off, and I called him a couple other days, how you doing? And then my wife sees 2 weeks later his website, and it's like, oh. So of course I threw some, probably should have been gone to jail for what I told him type of stuff, right? Well, 3 years later, I don't know. My big heart, I decided I'll call this guy and just give him a chit chat, whatever, just bury the hatchet, no big deal. I called the guy up and we bury the hatchet, and then he goes, and this was the best thing. I almost wish I waited one more year. He goes, every time I went around a corner, I thought of you in a shotgun sitting there waiting for me. And I was like, yes, that's vindication. I felt so good that he said that.
I wish the people who did stuff like that to me worried like that. That'd be awesome if they did.
Yeah.
This is so then Dion says that was the year Chad started putting everyone on non-competes. And then somebody else mentioned non-compete agreements.
They were already on it. Texas, they don't care.
I think you need to look at your, your state and Kristen could probably talk about this. I do have one. I think there's sometimes it can work and sometimes it can be too restrictive, and that's a balance that you have to have. Then I haven't met a tree guy who didn't offer to come back later and pitch his services off the books. Yeah. It's funny, as an owner, I've even been asked if I could do something on the side. Like I'm out there talking like, man, could you do this on the side? I said, dude, on the side for me is twice as expensive, right? I mean, you're getting charged big time if it's on the side for me. Let me close out with a story, and some of you know it. And I have this phrase, dumb is real, and I have it on my podcast, and it really talks about the I know what I wonder before I tell that story. On John Maxwell, I started saying this. Here's the top 10 reasons people fail. Number 1, poor understanding of people. I think that's why business leaders fail. Number 2, a negative attitude. Again, I think if you take all these things you and us are talking about tonight and you think negatively about them, or like, I'll never want to do that. Or for us, we're kind of laughing about them, going, yeah, it happened, and we move through them. I remember talking to a super rich person one time, and he said, man, I'm the biggest failure in this whole room. And he meant I failed more than all of you combined. Therefore, that's why I'm as successful as I am. Bad fit. Sometimes you have a bad fit on a business. Lack of focus, weak commitment to the goal. Unwillingness to change. That's real common in our industry. They're inflexible. I have a shortcut mindset. I think that's not totally in our industry as much. Relying on talent alone. Number 9, acting on poor information. And on that, there's 2 sides to every story. A lot of times I'll get something from my office as one story, and then I talk to the technician, it's something else, talk to the homeowner, it's something else. If I would have taken one side of any of those stories, I probably would have made a mistake in my decision. So make sure you're getting all sides of the story. And number 10, biggest reason people fail, they don't have any goals. So let me finish with a story. Let me wrap up on a couple of these. Jason Fox says non-competes are generally non-binding here. It's really hard to build one that's actually enforceable for a construction type industry. Maybe so. I would talk to your attorney and see what they think. And then Facebook person says negative experiences help us grow. So I'm going to wrap up with this story. Many years ago, gosh, it was probably 15 or maybe even 20 years ago. So it's an old story, but It was when a sprayable product came out, pretty new to spray into smoke chambers that that you could spray and kind of coat the surface and fill holes and gaps. Is really what it's for. It really wasn't parging, and it really wasn't to reduce combustibles. It was to fill holes and gaps in a smoke chamber. And we were using it, and you put it in a pump up sprayer, a pump up, not pump up, but it has a pressure hose.
Pressurized.
Yeah, pressurized. Well, most people know, what I'm talking about. So we were in a very famous country music singer's house, and she was gone, and she was on the road, and so she had a lot of work done. Well, some other chimney company had come before us and messed up all the liners. All of them were wrong. There's six fireplaces in this house. All the liners were way too small. They put like a 5-inch liner down these chimneys. And so we were the good guys. We were we were the knowledgeable guys. We're the experts. So we come in, we get all the liners in, and we're doing all the smoke chambers, and we'd finish 5 of the 6. Well, the 6th smoke chamber, and while we were finishing, was in her music room. Now, picture this music room is like this. There's Grammy Awards. There's all of her instruments, a baby grand piano, a beautiful chandelier, oriental rugs, her books, her treadmill. Like, this is her woman cave, her she shed. She's built it and made it. It's a shrine to her. Gold records on the wall. Like, it's amazing. And we're in this room. Well, we put pressure to that pot that's full, and the top, at the time it was hooked to the top blows off of it, and literally that pressurized pot shot up and hit that chandelier and atomized in that room, and literally in an instant that pot dumped everything into this music room, literally all over everything in the room. Now, I'm not there. I'm actually somewhere else. I get a call from my employees like, dude, we are in deep shit. We have really, really messed up. I run over there, and literally it's all over everything. But imagine an open baby grand piano, if you will. All the strings, all the hammers, and it's in there. It's all over the keys. It's all over her books. It's all over everything. So we start to, of course, we panic, and we start cleaning. So she's on tour. So I call the house manager who hired us. I said, we've got a problem. We've had an equipment failure, and we have totally coated this room. She's like, oh my God, Mark, I'm going to be fired. You're going to be sued. This is going to be bad for everybody. I said, I know. She's like, we have to clean this, and so nobody ever knows. Because all of a sudden, now we were on this is funny, ash coated.
I saw it too.
So she gets over there, and now we're on the same side of the equation. We have got to clean this room immaculately. So we start cleaning. Well, the product is like, it's a ceramic. So when you start to wipe it up, it actually is non-staining, but it's smearing. Like, you clean it, and then it dries, and it reappears. You clean it, it reappears. Well, so we're cleaning everything, and I hire a company to come over. It took us, I brought my whole company into one room. At the time, there's 4 or 5 of us. We all cleaned one room for 4 days with her while this girl is on the road. Well, we get it all cleaned up, it just clean and clean and clean. I had our company clean certain things while we were in there, wiping the floors, wiping all the books down, wiping every single key between every string with Q-tips, like, just unbelievable cleaning. And so and then right as we were leaving, like, I'd look up and see a smear on a light bulb, and we would, it was just like ongoing. We just could not clean enough. Well, we finally got it clean. We got it done. We got out of there. And I kept seeing this girl on TV, and I'm like, I wonder if she knows. I wonder if she knows. Like, I'd see her and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder if she knew what ever happened in her room. She had to have
Mm.
opened something and like, it's like, what is this? Like there had to have been something we missed. Well, then I saw her. I went to a Dairy Queen one day and I was behind her in line and she had her son there. And I was behind her. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna say something to her. So I said, hey, I'm not gonna say her name. And she turned around. I said, hey, I'm Mark Stoner. I'm your chimney guy. And this was the moment of truth. And she goes, hey, Mark, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good. And I said, she goes, I'm so glad I saw you. I've got some more chimney work for you to do. And so for me, that was like, she never, as far as I know, she never found out. But that was, and I called the company at the time and they changed the way that the smoke type, that it won't come out of the top now. It comes out of the bottom or sideways because we ruined her house.
Love that story.
It's tough. It was a tough one. I love ash coaters. That's funny. All right, guys. I really appreciate your time. General Chad and Jake. I really appreciate you guys. And for all the listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. The main reason for this story is misery loves company. A lot of times we get around and we like to tell the stories. I think it's because we all need to know that this is part of the deal. It's kind of what you signed up for. You don't want it to happen, but if it's going to happen, you need to learn from it. You need to take the experience and make your company better and understand that to really grow a company, if that's what you want, you're going to kind of have to expose yourself to these things, and you got to get good at fixing problems. Like when you grow a company, I say it a lot, you're going to have to buy a lot of mistakes. You have to buy mistakes, but when you buy mistakes, you better try to get something for it. You better try to get some training. You better try to change a policy. You better try to, change a person or change a role. So guys, anything else before we leave?
All good. Thanks, Mark.
Good. All right, guys. Thank you. All right, guys, that's our time. Thank you so much for joining us this week for SureFire Live. I will be back next week. I love topics. If you got topics, let me know about them, and we will be sure to have them on this show. All right, guys, have a good night. Talk to you soon.